I stood frozen in the hotel lobby, my heart pounding as I watched my children and their spouses laughing together, heading toward the elevator without even glancing back at me. My daughter-in-law, Monica, had muttered something about finally being free of the burden, and their laughter had echoed like knives in my chest. They didn't know I had heard every word. They didn't know that I had scraped together every cent of my savings, sold my pies week after week in the town square, and even pawned my wedding ring just to pay for this trip. And they certainly didn't know what I was about to do. But before I explain that moment, I need to take you back to the beginning, to a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks earlier when it all started. The sun had been warm through my kitchen window as I prepared my daily coffee, the same routine I had kept since my husband passed away 4 years ago. The silence of widowhood had become familiar, but that day my phone rang, and my eldest son Raphael's voice spilled through the line with a sweetness he only used when he wanted something. "Mom, I have a wonderful idea," he said brightly. My heart fluttered at the thought of being included again. "What do you think about us taking a family trip for the holidays? Like in the old days, a whole week together at a beautiful hotel on the coast." His voice painted the picture so vividly that tears filled my eyes. It had been so long since I felt part of something more than just obligatory dinners where I stayed in the kitchen while they talked about their lives. When Raphael explained that the hotel required one person to make the reservation and asked if I could handle it, promising they'd pay me back later, I agreed instantly. It was always like that. I signed my name. I guaranteed the bills. I did the work. But this time, it didn't matter. I thought this was my chance to show love in the only way I knew how, through sacrifice. That evening, I called the Golden Palms Hotel. My hands trembled as I asked for 5 family suites, all inclusive, for 12 people. The receptionist told me the price $4,200. I nearly stopped breathing. My pension was only $800 a month, and I had saved exactly that amount after selling pies for 8 months. Each Sunday morning at the town square, carefully tucking coins into a tin I hid behind the canned beans, I was far from the deposit of $2,100 they required. That night, sleep never came. I sat in my rocking chair, staring at my husband's wedding ring, the diamond catching the lamplight. It had been the symbol of our 42 years together. But now, it was all I had left of him. By morning, I walked into Mr. Jenkins' jewelry shop downtown. He looked at the ring with kind eyes, then offered me $800. My heart clenched, but I forced myself to nod. With that money and my small savings, I had enough for the deposit. I called the hotel again, made the payment, and heard the confirmation that our trip was booked. In that moment, despite the ache of parting with my ring, joy filled me. I had given my family something they would never forget. Over the next few weeks, I kept scraping together money. I sold more pies, took on sewing jobs, and turned down the heat in my house to save on the bills. I skipped meals, walked instead of taking the bus, and lived as frugally as possible, all to pay off the rest of the balance. Every time Raphael or Diego asked about the details, they brushed aside the topic of reimbursement. "We'll settle that later, Mom. What matters is, we'll all be together." I believed them because I wanted so badly to believe. 3 days before the trip, Raphael called again, his voice full of excitement. "Mom, the kids can't wait. Monica already packed. How are things on your end?" I swallowed the lump in my throat and told him everything was ready. He didn't ask how I had managed it, and I didn't tell him. Some sacrifices aren't meant to be spoken, The night before departure, I made the final payment with my credit card. I was left with a heavy debt, an empty jewelry box, and almost nothing in my bank account. But when I zipped up my suitcase and laid out my best blue dress for the morning, my heart was light. Tomorrow, I thought, we would finally be a family again. Tomorrow, my children would see the love I had carried for them all these years. The morning of the trip, I woke before sunrise, nervous and excited like a child. Raphael arrived at 7:30 a.m., honking from the street. Monica sat in the passenger seat scrolling her phone, barely glancing at me. The grandkids muttered greetings, their eyes glued to a tablet. I smiled anyway, pushing down the sting. During the 3-hour drive, I tried to chat, but their answers were short, distracted. Monica laughed at texts in her group chat, dismissing me when I asked about it. I turned my face to the window, watching the fields roll past, and told myself it didn't matter. Soon, we'd be at the hotel, and everything would be worth it. When we finally pulled up to the golden palms, my breath caught. The palms swayed, fountains sparkled, and the ocean breeze carried the smell of salt and flowers. My granddaughter Mariana was the only one to hug me, her eyes shining as she whispered, "Grandma, this place is incredible." I wanted to hold on to her and never let go. At the reception desk, I confirmed the reservation in my name, handed over my credit card, and received 5 elegant keys. I turned with a smile to share my joy, but my children were gone. They had already walked away toward the elevators, laughing without me. That was when I realized something was terribly wrong. I stood at the reception desk, holding 5 keys on palm-shaped chains, my hand trembling. My family had vanished into the elevators without a word. Only Mariana lingered by my side, her eyes filled with unease. "Grandma," she whispered, "there's something you need to know." She pulled out her phone, hesitating. "They have a group chat without you?" My stomach sank. "What group chat?" Mariana bit her lip and showed me the screen. At the top, in bold letters, was the title, "Drama-Free Vacation." My heart pounded as I scrolled through the messages. The words cut deeper than any blade. The old lady paid for everything, as usual. Perfect. Now we can enjoy ourselves without her watching. Did you see her face at reception? So embarrassing. She can stay in her room with the TV while we enjoy the trip. I felt my knees weaken. For months, I had sacrificed, sold pies in the cold, parted with my wedding ring, skipped meals, and all of it had been nothing more than a cruel joke to them. Mariana's voice trembled. "Grandma, they didn't want you here. Dad made this group the same day he invited you." I couldn't breathe. The marble lobby, the fresh flower scent, the distant sound of the ocean, all of it blurred as tears burned my eyes. I wanted to collapse, but instead I clenched the keys tighter. I asked Mariana to scroll further. The later messages were worse. They planned to have me transfer the rooms into their names, then dispute the charges at the bank so I would be left with the debt. They called me a burden and even joked about hiring a nanny so the children wouldn't have to spend time with me. Mariana whispered, "I'm so sorry. I tried to tell them it was wrong, but they didn't listen." Her honesty was like a lifeline in that moment of betrayal. I hugged her, fighting the urge to break down. "Thank you for showing me, sweetheart," I whispered. My children had deceived me, but I would not be silent this time. The Estella they thought they knew, the one who endured quietly, who swallowed humiliation, was gone. Something inside me hardened. I walked to my suite, room 303, with Mariana following close behind. The room was stunning, a king bed with crisp white sheets, a balcony overlooking the turquoise ocean, marble floors gleaming in the sunlight. It was everything I had dreamed of during months of penny pinching. But now it felt like a stage for a cruel play where I was only the sponsor, not the guest. I sat on the bed, my hands shaking, staring down at the keys. "They think they fooled me," I said softly. "But the game has only just begun." That afternoon, while my family enjoyed cocktails by the pool, I began making calls. First to the bank. I explained to the representative that my children were preparing to file a fraudulent dispute against charges I had personally authorized. She placed a protective note on my account and assured me that any attempt would trigger a strict investigation. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of control. Next, I called the hotel manager, a kind man named Miguel Anderson. I explained the situation calmly, though my voice trembled at times. "I need you to confirm in writing that I am the sole reservation holder and payer," I told him, "and I want to be notified if anyone attempts to make changes without me present." Miguel agreed and offered to meet with me the next morning. "Mrs. Williams," he said, "you have more power here than you realize." My final call was to Mr. Jenkins, the lawyer who had once handled my husband's will. I poured out everything: the lies, the group chat, the plan to leave me with the bill. His voice grew stern. "Estella, what they are doing is financial fraud and elder abuse. You have every right to protect yourself, even to sue them if you choose." The word abuse landed heavy on my chest. I had never thought of myself as a victim of abuse, but that was exactly what it was. He prepared documents for me to sign, including a sworn statement, and told me to ask the hotel about notary services. By the time I hung up, the sun was setting in golden streaks across the ocean. I could hear my children laughing outside, their carefree voices drifting up from the pool. Once, those sounds would have filled me with joy. Now, they felt like a cruel reminder of how blind I had been. At 6:30 p.m., Raphael knocked on my door, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Mom, how was your afternoon?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked, and saw not the sweet boy I had raised, but a man willing to use his mother for money. "Very productive," I replied evenly. He shifted uncomfortably, then said, "Diego and I thought it might be easier if we handled the keys. You know, just in case of emergencies." His words were rehearsed, his smile forced. I held the keys tighter. "Raphael, I'm 65 years old, not 95. I can manage a few keys." His face faltered. For the first time, he realized I was not going to play my part. That night at dinner, I watched my family differently. I saw their greed in the way they ordered the most expensive dishes, their selfishness in the way they spoke of plans without ever including me. But I also saw innocence in my younger grandkids and loyalty in Mariana's eyes. The table was full, but my heart was strangely calm. I had made my choice. Tomorrow, everything would change. I rose before dawn the next morning, not because of nerves, but out of habit. For months, I had risen early to bake pies and save coins for this very trip. Only this time, instead of exhaustion weighing me down, I felt a strange sense of strength I hadn't known in years. Today, the balance of power would shift. I dressed in my navy blue suit, the one I had worn at my husband's funeral. It felt almost symbolic, a garment of endings, but also of dignity. By 6:30, I was seated in the quiet hotel restaurant, sipping coffee and reviewing the documents Mr. Jenkins had emailed. At 7:00 a.m., Miguel, the hotel manager, joined me and invited me into his office. Mrs. Williams, he began kindly. I reviewed your case with our legal team. We understand the situation and are ready to support you. He opened a folder. Inside was an official statement confirming that I alone had booked and paid for the entire reservation. But it was the second document that caught my attention, an addendum giving me exclusive authority to change or cancel any part of the booking. Miguel explained it clearly. You are the sole holder. If you wish, you can cancel one or all of the rooms. No one else has any authority. The words settled over me like a revelation. I could decide who stayed and who left. I asked him to cancel 4 of the 5 suites, leaving only mine. He raised an eyebrow but nodded professionally. I specified that the key cards for rooms 301, 302, 304, and 305 should stop working at exactly 10:00 a.m. At 11:00 a.m., staff would inform my family that their rooms had been canceled and they needed to vacate by noon. If they want to speak to me, I added, they may come to my room, but only with civility. Any disrespect, and security will handle it. Miguel wrote down every word, his expression respectful. Mrs. Williams, he asked quietly, may I ask why you've chosen this path? I looked him straight in the eyes. Because for 40 years I gave everything to my children, and they chose to betray me. Today, I am choosing myself. I signed the documents, and a notary confirmed everything. Before leaving, I gave one final instruction at 12:30 p.m. A taxi should be waiting for me and Mariana. We would not stay here, in a place now poisoned with betrayal. We would move to another hotel, one where I could finally enjoy the vacation I had paid for. Miguel nodded. It will be done. Back in my room, I poured myself fresh coffee and sat on the balcony overlooking the pool. Below, my family laughed in the sunshine, sipping cocktails and splashing in the water, completely unaware that their time was running out. My phone buzzed with messages from Mariana, who kept me updated from her spot nearby. At 10:00 a.m., just as planned, their keycards stopped working. At 10:11, Monica stormed toward reception, furious. By 10:20, Raphael called me, his voice tight with panic. Mom, something's wrong. Our cards don't work. The receptionist says the reservation was changed. Can you come fix this? I let a smile curl my lips. Strange, I said lightly. Perhaps you should check with the person who paid for the rooms. Mom, please. The kids need their things. I'm busy. Raphael, you'll figure it out. I hung up before he could answer. By 10:45, Mariana texted me that Miguel was speaking with my sons, their faces pale with worry. Monica shouted at a receptionist, while Anna looked ready to cry. At 10:58, Diego called. Mom, tell me this isn't true. Did you cancel our rooms? His voice cracked with disbelief. Yes, I answered calmly. Silence stretched before he whispered, why? Because I can. I ended the call. At 11:00 sharp, I watched from the balcony as Miguel and 2 staff members approached the pool area. My children's laughter evaporated as they realized this was no mistake. I saw Raphael's jaw clench, Monica's face twist in fury, Anna's shoulders slump. My grandkids looked confused, clutching their beach bags. A few minutes later, there was pounding at my door. I opened it to find them all: Raphael, Diego, Monica, and Anna crowding the hallway with desperate eyes. "Can you tell me what on earth is going on?" Monica spat. "Good morning to you too," I replied, stepping aside. They barged in, voices overlapping. Raphael tried to reason. Diego pleaded, Monica accused, and Anna wept. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots of their secret group chat. Their faces drained of color. "This isn't what it looks like," Raphael stammered. "Then explain free vacation with no family drama." I shot back. No one spoke. "Mom, you can't do this," Diego said finally. "We have children." My voice was steady. "And what were you going to tell those children, that their grandmother was good enough to pay, but not good enough to sit at the table? Actions have consequences." Mariana appeared in the doorway then, her eyes wet but fierce. "I know everything," she said to her parents. "The chat, the lies, the plan to scam Grandma. You should be ashamed." The silence that followed was worse than shouting. For once, it wasn't me who looked small. It was them. The silence in my suite grew heavier by the second. My children stood like strangers, their faces a mixture of anger, guilt, and disbelief. Monica was the first to break. "You can't just throw us out," she snapped. "We're your family." Her voice dripped with outrage, as though it was me who had betrayed them. I met her eyes calmly. Who abandoned whom first? Monica. Was it me? Or the ones who mocked me in a secret chat and plotted to leave me with a mountain of debt? She flinched, and I saw for the first time that beneath her fury was fear. Raphael stepped forward, his voice pleading. "Mom, let's be reasonable. We can fix this. We'll split the cost at the end, like we planned." I almost laughed at the desperation in his tone. "When exactly did we agree to split the costs?" "Raphael, was it before or after you created a group chat called Drama Free Vacation?" His mouth opened, then closed again, the words dying on his tongue. Diego raised his hands, trying to soften the tension. "Mom, we made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But please, don't drag the kids into this. They don't deserve it." I looked past him at the hallway, where my younger grandkids clutched their beach bags, confusion on their innocent faces. My chest tightened. They were the only ones blameless in this entire charade. "You're right," I said softly. "They don't deserve this. But what they do deserve is honesty. Someday, they'll understand that their parents chose greed over respect." Anna's tears spilled over. "You're destroying this family," she cried. "No, Anna," I answered. "This family destroyed itself when it decided I was nothing more than a wallet with wrinkles." The room went quiet again, until Mariana stepped fully inside. She looked straight at her parents, her voice trembling but steady. "I told you it was wrong. I told you Grandma deserved better. And you told me I didn't understand. But I understood perfectly. You were using her words, so clear and sharp, hit them harder than mine ever could. For a moment, none of them could meet her gaze. Then Monica, desperate to reclaim control, lashed out again. "Fine. Throw us out. But don't expect us to come crawling back when you're lonely. Estella, don't expect us to forgive you." I walked toward her until we stood face to face. I would rather live alone in dignity than surrounded by people who despise me. I said evenly. Her eyes flickered with something close to defeat. A soft knock came at the door. Miguel stood there with his usual calm professionalism. "Mrs. Williams, the taxi you requested is ready. The staff has placed your family's luggage in the lobby." His words dropped like stones into the tense silence. Raphael's head whipped around. "Taxi? You're leaving too?" I nodded. "Yes. Mariana and I are going to another hotel where I can actually enjoy the vacation I paid for." Diego's eyes widened. "You can't just take my daughter." But Mariana stepped forward. Her chin lifted. "I'm not being taken. I'm choosing to go with Grandma. She's the only one who's treated me with respect." The look on Diego's face was half fury, half heartbreak, but he didn't argue. Deep down, he knew she was right. I turned to my younger grandchildren, who had been watching everything with confusion and fear. Kneeling before them, I hugged each one tightly. "I love you all very much. This isn't your fault. Someday, when you're older, you'll understand why Grandma had to do this." Little Thomas whispered. "So we won't build sandcastles anymore." My heart cracked, but I smiled through tears. "Yes, we will. One day, we'll build the biggest, most beautiful sandcastles. When your parents remember how to treat the people they love," with Mariana by my side. I picked up my suitcase. Raphael reached out one last time, his voice breaking. "Mom, if you walk out now, things will never be the same." I met his eyes, and for a moment I saw the little boy I had once carried in my arms. "They already aren't the same, Raphael. You made sure of that." We walked down the hall, leaving them stunned in silence. In the lobby, the sight of their suitcases piled neatly against the wall was almost poetic. Miguel met us by the taxi, his voice gentle. "Mrs. Williams, it's been an honor to meet you. What you did took great courage." I shook my head. "It wasn't courage, Miguel. It was survival." As the taxi pulled away, I looked back one final time. My children stood at the hotel entrance, arguing with each other, phones pressed to their ears as they scrambled for new accommodations. My heart ached, but not with regret, only with the weight of years wasted giving to people who never truly valued me. Mariana slipped her hand into mine. "Do you regret it, Grandma?" she asked softly. I thought of my wedding ring sold for scraps, of the sleepless nights baking pies, of the cruel laughter in the lobby. And then I thought of this moment, leaving with dignity instead of humiliation. "No, sweetheart," I whispered. "I only regret that it took me so long to value myself." The taxi carried us toward a small boutique hotel on the coast, where I had made a reservation that morning. A place where a grandmother and her granddaughter could finally build those sand castles, enjoy quiet dinners, and remember what true family really means. For the first time in decades, I felt free. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please like, share, and comment below. With where you're listening from, it means the world to me. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss more life stories like this one. Thank you for being part of this journey with me.